Namaskar. Our today's guest is a person, a pillar rather, who is associated with the formation and setting up of the National Institute of Securities Markets, an educational and training wing of SEBI. He holds doctorate from IIM Ahmedabad. He was an associate professor at the XLRI Jamshedpur. He was a dean professor at IIM Trichy and much more. We are taking his interview today for the Virtual Museum of Securities Market. Sir, welcome.
Thank you.
First of all, we'd like to understand from you the brief history of the markets, right from the traditional market, stock exchanges till today.
When we generally speak about the history of Indian stock markets, everyone tends to go back to the day when the Bombay Stock Exchange was set up way back, maybe more than 150 years back. But more practical thing is we can look at the way things have happened maybe from the mid 1980s. That's pretty relevant for us. I can anecdotally tell you the situation that prevailed in the mid 80s when people like us came into the market. I was living in Jamshedpur in those days.
Okay.
So if you wanted to buy a share, you never met the broker. You met some sub broker who was sitting in a far off village or a town, mostly town, and then went and gave an application along with some check. And then after that, you didn't know what happened to it for several weeks. Many weeks later, you will get a letter saying that the share has been purchased, but you have to now take steps to transfer that into your name.
Okay.
So one more round of activities will begin. You have to send the registration form to the company, and then they will finally ensure that your name comes into the register of members. And today it is T+1.
Okay.
And I heard SEBI chairperson mentioning it's going to be T+0 too soon. This is the kind of a thing that has happened to these markets, that transactions have become extremely fast and investors' money is very safe now. The risk management situation in the capital markets is very good. The trading is online, electronic, and people are talking in terms of nanoseconds. So that puts our secondary markets almost at par with what is achievable elsewhere. In the primary market also things have dramatically changed. And today I think if I participate in a primary market issue, listing takes place in about a week's time. Previously these things used to take plenty of time. So what's happened is, both for the companies which are trying to raise capital and for the investors who want to participate in giving money to them, things have become much better than what they were. So what happens consequently is people like you and me, small shareholders, we have a great deal of enthusiasm and confidence to come to the market and give our money to companies by way of risk capital. So the household savings that are now coming into the corporates has become much more, which I think is a prerequisite for any nation building, that unless household money comes to the corporates, they put it in business, development is unlikely to happen. That is a contribution of what has happened in the last about 30-40 years. Much of it is because of SEBI, thanks to also the great deal of support that the Ministry of Finance has given, but credit must go to SEBI.
Professor Sethu, in the very beginning we introduced you as the pillar of NISM. What really went behind? What was the vision? Could you give us the anecdotes? What were the challenges in the formation of NISM?
To understand this NISM as a concept, we have to go a little bit before that. The liberalization that took place in 1991.
Okay.
And part of that broader liberalization program of the government, this capital market was also one of the things. Number of committees were set up to study very many facets of this market. And then USAID
Yeah.
came in with the fire project.
Hmm.
So much of the assistance also, ideas came from them also. The Ministry of Finance was involved and SEBI was involved. And it is during that time, if I remember, USAID project had suggested that we must do something to strengthen the capacity of intermediaries in the market.
Okay.
And they gave the example of NASDAQ and NYSE, where these certification programs, continuing professional education programs, they were all already fairly in place. But they were all done by self-regulatory organizations,
Okay.
not by the regulator, market regulator, not SEC. They were done by NYSE and NASDAQ.
NASDAQ.
But the idea was mooted here. I remember the first time I came in contact with that idea was sometime in 1995. SEBI had already constituted a small group
Okay.
to prepare an examination for the brokers. I happened to be a special invitee in that group.
Okay.
That group worked for a while to create a syllabus, but I didn't see much happening after that for a while for various reasons. But the idea was there. Then I must also say National Stock Exchange started these kinds of activities in 1998, which became a big success.
Okay.
Then it was followed by Association of Mutual Funds in India to do the certification for the distributors. That was also a SEBI initiative. These things became fairly successful, and parallelly I think somewhere around 2003 or 4, I don't clearly remember, Chairman Vajpayee was here.
Okay.
Under his chairmanship, they decided SEBI must start playing an active role in certification and capacity, the continuing education. Then the idea of setting up alternatives were either you give to a self-regulatory organization or you find some other way of doing it. Unfortunately, other than the stock exchanges, we did not have any self-regulatory organization really speaking. Even AMFI was not very keen to be a SRO here.
Okay.
Then I think they decided that better to set up an institute and get the job done. So this idea was mooted, and a legal formation of the institute was done under Chairman Vajpayee's time.
Okay.
And two people who were closely involved with that was, one is Mr. Pradeep Kar, who was the then executive director, and Mr. M.S. Sahu. At that time he was a chief general manager, but subsequently he became a whole-time member here. I think that is when this whole thing started. Then parallelly something else was going on. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Damodaran came to UTI as a chairman of UTI. And we had a UTI Institute of Capital Markets, which was established sometime in 1989.
Okay.
That's a story in itself. UTI had done some consultancy work for some agency in Mauritius, and they received consultancy money.
Okay.
Under UTI Act, that money could not be taken by UTI.
Okay.
So the then chairman of UTI, Mr. Manohar Parwani, a very big name, so he said, let me use this money to set up an institute for educational purposes in the capital market. So when Chairman Damodaran came here, he said, there is one institute here. I heard that SEBI is also thinking of setting up an institute. Let me have a word with Chairman SEBI whether he would like to take over this institute itself. I think by which time SEBI had made some good progress in setting up this institute. That idea did not go too far. And as things would have it, Mr. Chairman Vajpayee retired. Mr. Damodaran came here as chairman. So after a year or so, he said, we have two institutes which are doing about the same thing. Let's put them together. So this legally the institute had been established somewhere around 2004, but it became really operational only in 2006.
Okay.
So at that time I came here. Then we started taking steps to set up this institute. But one or two interesting things I remember, even under Chairman Vajpayee's time, to set up an institute, they said we need a campus. So some land was required. So a small team was assembled
Okay.
to negotiate with all the whoever is prepared to give land. Again, Mr. Sahu was there. I was there. We too went around many places. I remember going to Hyderabad
Okay.
because the government of Andhra Pradesh was very keen to give a piece of land. We saw a piece of land next to the airport, the new airport.
Navi Mumbai.
But we said, okay, let's keep it there, but Bombay is where we want this institute.
Okay.
Then we went to Maharashtra government. They said between here and Pune, there's hardly any land available of the kind that you want. You want something like 100 acres. That kind of a land is just not available. But nevertheless, we will make an attempt to show you some places. They showed us something near Pune.
Okay.
They showed us something near Kargar. Somehow the things were not very appealing. And then it so happened, Mr. Damodaran, I think, made a courtesy call on the Chief Minister of Maharashtra. So at that point of time, he told him, SEBI has been wanting to set up an institute. We are looking for a land, but we are not getting anything suitable. Across the table, I am told the Chief Minister said, leave it to me, I will find a land for you. Within no time, this land was allowed.
Okay.
So this is the story of how this land came about. But land had some problems because some people were already cultivating and staying there. I must admit, MIDC came to our rescue. There was a CEO called Mr. Chhatrapati Shivaji IAS. He was the CEO. We went to him. Luckily for me, Mr. Sahu and Dr. Abraham, who were whole-time members here, they had known Dr. Shivaji for a long time.
Okay.
So they also took some efforts. Finally, everything worked out. The officers in MIDC were extremely helpful. So finally, we got this land. This is how that land
Everything
was got.
clicked.
Everything clicked.
Okay. So as the markets evolved, a requirement of adequate capacity was realized. How did this challenge get addressed?
As I told you, even before SEBI started thinking about this, the need was there, but SEBI was hoping that some self-regulatory organizations will step in and do the needful. That discussion was going on. NSE took the lead in this.
Okay.
And finally, SEBI is not only stockbrokers, it's not only mutual fund distributors. You have at least another about 20-30 different intermediaries. For example, merchant bankers, debenture trustees. So a whole lot of people are there. There is no very well developed SRO of the kind of NASD or NYSE we were having in those areas. Then SEBI realized that in our kind of a situation, the regulator must step in and fill this void. That is how it was decided this institute's primary purpose will be to do the certificate examination on continuing professional education for all the market intermediaries. So one by one, we started designing examinations, and now I think they have plenty of examinations covering the entire gamut of securities markets.
Okay.
And then I remember one discussion, if you want to give an examination, who all should take the exam?
Okay.
I remember in that meeting, Chairman Bajpayee very jokingly said, look, don't make me take the exam, I am certain to fail.
Okay.
So everybody laughed at it and then said, no sir, don't worry about it, there is a grandfathering clause that's available. People who have been in the securities market for long
time,
very experienced people, they don't have to write an exam, they get automatically grandfathered. But people who are coming into the market fresh, they need to take the exam, and once in 3 years they have to also be updated and get the certificate updated. So you need to have a continuing professional education component. So it's gradually acceptance.
So for that also
came
exams are required every 3 years?
You get a choice there. Either you can take the exam or you can complete 1 week of continuing professional education and pass a small test at the end of it. Now I think slowly things have fallen in place. It's an accepted idea that this is to be done. And I think it's a pioneering initiative by SEBI here.
Okay. So you mentioned about the certification program. Now in 2010, starting 2010, NISM started doing the certification programs, which before AMFI was doing. What was the thought process behind it?
See, AMFI had started doing certification program for the mutual fund distributors. I was also involved in that because I was from UTI in those days. So I was partly involved in preparing the book and doing the questions and actually going and administering the examination. And AMFI made a good progress. So it set some kind of idea in the mind of the market participants that this is not, it's working. People are prepared to take the exam. It's not a very complicated kind of a thing. It is a doable kind of a thing. Then when SEBI was discussing it, should the AMFI examination become part of this pantheon of examinations that NISM was planning to do, or should it still be away?
Okay.
I'm just guessing what happened because I don't know exactly what happened. I think the choice was you must be authorized to do an examination. Either you ought to be a SRO, or if SRO is not available, regulator himself or itself will do. I think AMFI was reluctant to become an SRO.
Okay.
Unlike NSE or BSE, which are self-regulatory kind of an organizations, I think AMFI had they have their own views on these things. Because SRO brings some kinds of additional responsibilities. Maybe they were not very keen to take it up at that point in time. So then SEBI said, then in which case we will ourselves do this AMFI examination in addition to all other exams that we are doing. That is how this AMFI thing came into NISM.
Okay. So you've also been associated with SEBI's Mutual Fund Advisory Committee. How do you see the trajectory of this particular sector, and when we are comparing it with the global peers, how do you see that?
See, this mutual fund industry, I again go back to sometime like 1964 when they first set up this Unit Trust of India. That was the first mutual fund in India, and till about 1984 or 85, that was the only mutual fund that was in India. But people who have read UTI carefully, they will understand the pioneering work that they had done in kind of almost everything associated with mutual funds. The kind of a products and kind of a processes and all that. Somewhere around mid-80s, some public sector mutual funds came. It's only the later part of 1990s, a large number of asset management companies came. But the real growth of this industry, I remember that time when I first came here, the Unit Trust of India had a market share of about 90%, and AUM was something like 70,000 crore. Now the AUM runs into a huge number. I don't know what that is. All this growth has taken place in the last about 10 years. And markets have grown. Number of investors in the mutual fund industry have grown. And most important things that have happened, I think the very bold moves that were taken by SEBI insofar as the mutual funds were concerned is sometime in 2009 or 10, I don't remember, the entry load was abolished. Almost about 2 to 2.5% was charged as entry load when someone wanted to invest. That was abolished. And SEBI had continuously told the industry the expenses have to come down. So the expense ratios have come down significantly. And I remember there was one discussion in SEBI, if we have to advise the investors, what kind of an investment product that we should suggest. We won't do it. Hypothetically, suppose we have to do it. What would be the right investment product? At the end of the discussion, in that meeting, we came to the conclusion, number one, it should be an index-based product, preferably on Nifty or Bombay Stock Exchange sensitive index. Number two, it should be a systematic investment plan. This was something that was discussed, I remember, 2007. This is what drove this mutual fund growth, the systematic investment plans. And once you enroll in a SIP, you continue to contribute month on month, regardless of what is happening to the market. and most of us can do that better than putting some big lump sum amount in things. So, the impact of this is today in our mutual fund industry, almost 50% of the assets are in equity, which is comparable to what is happening in the US. We, I think, have 52%, they have 48%. So, a lot of money has come into equity. Retail participation has grown significantly, household participation. And one thing is the concentration still is in the top 30 towns, cities. SEBI has actively been encouraging going beyond this 30. They have been fairly successful, but I think a lot of work needs to be done because it has not gone to much smaller places. It will happen also. Mutual fund regulation is one of the strongest I have seen, because I also have a lot of things to do in the industry side. I see the kind of a respect that SEBI commands in the industry is phenomenal, because that can happen only if you know what you are doing. So, SEBI is pretty good at regulating these mutual funds. Risk management programs are pretty strong. So, I think overall, if you think of the mutual fund industry, what it was and what kind of difficult times it went through and where we are today, I think today we are very advanced. We are very advanced and quite comparable to many other jurisdictions. So, great achievement has been managed here.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, sir, for taking us through significant milestones of NISM, the industry, the markets, and also about the mutual fund industry. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, I must conclude saying that when SEBI was set up somewhere in 1987 or 88, and I was witness to all those things as a reader of newspapers, and subsequently what has happened, it has emerged as a model regulator. On the confidence that came after that, so many other regulators have been established in this country, but RBI and SEBI have been model regulators for us. Thank you very
SEBI
much.
knows what it's doing.
And I was fortunate to be associated with this great organization.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.